Get started, guys, because we've got a lot to pack in an hour and a half. So first of all, I want to welcome all of you here today. This is our 25th anniversary of our From Bolts to Bloom conference and sale, and we really appreciate you being here today to help us celebrate. My name is Belinda Cromer, and I'm a proud member of the Smith County Master Gardener Association here in Tyler and Smith County. I want to brought my cheat notes for y'all. Your support for our annual event is just so much appreciated, and just so you know, the money that we raise at these events goes toward horticulture education in our community, the beautification of the Tyler Botanical Garden, which is located in the Tyler Rose Garden, workshops that we do around town year-round, speaker events in the community, and 4 annual scholarships to students at Texas A&M and Stephen F. Austin University. Our mission in the Smith County Master Gardener Association is to provide education to this community and to provide answers to questions that you might have about your gardening needs. We are trained and certified, but we are volunteers. We are not horticulturists. To become a Master Gardener in our association, we require our Master Gardeners to attend a class 1 day a week, January through March, and after that class, we require our class students to become internists for 1 year. After that, they become certified Master Gardeners, and all the years after that, they continue volunteering and getting continuing education hours. So it's not like you just go dig in the dirt. We do learn a little bit along the way to help you guys with whatever your needs are. We learn how to help people and to teach. We are an organization that is a network of smiling members. We enjoy the fellowship and the friendship of others in the gardens. If you're interested in joining our program, we would ask that you go to our office, which is located at the Cotton Belt Building at 1517 West Front Street. And if you're not familiar with that, it's real easy to find. You can Google Cotton Belt and it will come right up. If you want to call us, you can look us up. Google Smith County Master Gardener and it'll come up on the website. We also have a Facebook page. All you have to do is search for Smith County Master Gardeners. Our Facebook page is pretty phenomenal. We have multiple posts every day. Once a month we give a to-do list. So we have a lot going on in our group. Before I get started totally, I hope some of you were able to see the 6 rolling slides that were on before you came in. On those slides, we had thank yous to our sponsors. We had some phenomenal sponsors for this event, both monetary and door prizes. I will run that again at the end of this time, and if there's anything that you missed that you want to take a picture of on your phone, you're welcome to do that. We do have a few more events, one more event this year for our first Tuesday in the Garden is November the 7th. If you've never attended that, this event this month in November will be from Moss Florist, and it will be ideas for Christmas holidays. So I think it'll be a really good one. We also have our schedule for the library series, which is on one of those slides, and you can take a picture of that. And save the date, you probably got a postcard for that, for our garden tour that will be Saturday, May the 18th next year. So we wanted to tell you about a few things that are already on the calendar so you can get those on your calendar too. Today, to get started, we are blessed to have 2 well-known and published speakers to share with you all you ever wanted to know about bulbs. Immediately after the speakers are done, we're going to have our raffle for the big bulb and our 2 weekend getaway drawings. So you'll be able to, if you will be able to be part of those drawings if you are here. If you're not here, we're going to go to the next person because you have tickets for that. So don't leave, stay for the drawings. After the drawings, you can shop for bulbs in the back, and those bulbs were not available on the catalog sale. They're only available here, so it might be a free-for-all, just warning you. Has happened. After that, or during that, you can get autographs from Chris and Greg from their book, all the books that you have of theirs, and I would highly recommend doing that. And then we welcome you to come to our market outside. So we have a full day of things to do here. So I'd like to get started now with the introduction of Chris, and it's Chris Weisinger, who is our first speaker today. I want to first thank Chris because he was a major sponsor for us. We have some really cool t-shirts from Chris. We really appreciate all he does to help our horticultural community, and especially in the bulb industry. He has an impressive history, and if you ever Google him, not that I ever did, but if you do, you'll be amazed at what you find about his background. He's not just a fighting Texas A. He's got a lot of other good things out there that I'm sure he's going to tell you about. But I'm going to keep this short and let him give you the bio that he provided us, because I'm going to wonder if I don't. Chris founded the Southern Bulb Company in 2004, along with several friends, in an attempt to recapture that which was once lost to the Southern gardener, bulbs that thrive in warm climates. Chris began collecting bulbs when he was young. He used his bulb passion for a college project at Texas A&M, which then he grew into a lifestyle and a business. Chris sought out heirloom and rare flower bulbs like the red spider lily. Chris also was featured in a New York Times story that affectionately dubbed him the Bulb Hunter, and later used that as the title of his book in 2013 when he wrote the book Bulb Hunter, which details his life as a bulb collector and farmer. Chris loves to share his passion for life and bulbs with others. His talk shares the stories of collecting, conveys valuable horticulture knowledge of bulbs, offers ideas and examples for using bulbs in the landscape, and delights the listener with a journey filled with beautiful, forgotten places. And I want to turn it over to Chris now, and I'm so anxious to hear his talk.
Good morning. I see it. That's all right. Is there an echo that just me here? As long as you're okay, you're not like screeching. Well, I can just do that. So hold it down lower. Turn it down a little bit. Well, if it's not bothering y'all, it'll bother me. So, all right. Okay, we could do that. All right. Well, here we go. All right, no further delays. Thanks for having me here. I'm honored to be here. Yes, I've settled up here. I'm not from here. I just want to let everybody know that right now. All right, I was born in Louisiana, lived in Houston, and then when crashed in the 80s, we moved to this beautiful place called Bakersfield. And that's where I cut my teeth gardening as a kid. Back in one fall, when we went to the garden center as a family, and there was a new display in the corner of that garden center, and there was cardboard boxes, and inside those cardboard boxes were little brown things that looked like rocks. Well, there were pretty pictures on the sides, though, and so in my little brain, I made a connection, a correlation. There was something between that brown rock and those beautiful pictures. And sure enough, I spent about $12. I took those flower bulbs home and I put them in the ground, and I forgot about them. Well, that spring, seemingly magically overnight, a beautiful red tulip appeared, and I've been hooked on flower bulbs ever since. Now, the flower in Bakersfield only lasted for about 4 days, and then it was done. I thought, that's okay, it was so spectacular, I'm looking forward to next year. Well, next year, the foliage came up and there was no bloom. Okay, looking forward to next year. Well, nothing came up the next year, and I dug down, and there I found the rotted remains of what used to have been my red tulip bulb, and I was horticulturally scarred from a very, very young age. I came to realize eventually that sunflower bulbs are not meant to come back every year like my little red tulip, even though I wanted a red tulip that was green. Some bulbs were what we call annuals. Another bulbs were what we call perennials. So that set in at a young age that maybe I killed something, but maybe it just wasn't right for my garden. And then fast forward to 1 year of junior college in a horticulture program out there in California, and then 4 years at Texas A&M. Yes. And I was a horticulture major. I was in the Corps Cadets as well. They called me Flower, which I was fine. Took a lot of physical design classes. In that senior year, though, one of our professors required us to write a business plan to start a nursery so that we'd have some kind of business sense about going into the wild west of the world and seeing if we can make our way through life. And I said, I want to write a business plan that answers a need that at least I had as a kid for perennial flower bulbs in my garden. And so I wrote this plan in 2003, so 20 years ago, for the Southern Bulb Company. My professor, Dr. Welch, introduced me to Greg 20 years ago, and we haven't looked back. It's really been exciting as part of the Southern Bulb Company. And here's how the introduction went. Dr. Welch, our professor, said, that's a great plan. I think I got a B on it because I turned it in a week late because I really wanted it to be perfect. And he said, those flower bulbs that you want, they're perennials, Chris. A lot of those are heirloom flower bulbs that aren't in the trade anymore, but you can still find them in all the old home sites, just like the Antique Rose Emporium started. A lot of those folks. And here's a list of people we need to visit. Greg is on there. And this was in the winter of 2003, 2004. And he essentially gave me the boot, kicked me out the door, and said, go visit these people all across Texas and Southeast. And sure enough, I did that. And I kept that going through the spring. And what was amazing to me is that he was right. All these old home sites had flower bulbs coming up. Where home sites were gone, lines and daffodils marked the home sites. What was even more exciting is that as I did this every single week of the year, there was always a different flower bulb blooming in some heirloom garden somewhere. And I came to realize that though I was jealous of the 300 colors of a catalog from Connecticut of all these different tulips, that we had a wider diversity and selection of flower bulbs under our noses all around us that were tailor-made for the perennials in our gardens. That would come back for generations, that were investments, that if we could put these in our gardens, we'd have them for a lifetime. And I began collecting the flower bulbs, and thus began the Southern Bulb Company. Now, why Smith County? Why did I move up here? I actually went to Wood County because somebody said you need to farm these bulbs, and you need to go to a place where there's sandy loam soil and lots of natural rainfall. And they said there's a sweet potato festival in the little town of Golden. They must have sandy loam soil up there, and they get lots of rain. So I went up to Wood County, and I went to the extension agent's office, and he listened to me very patiently, and he gave me a list of sweet potato farmers. And then he looked at his watch, and he said, they're probably all playing dominoes at domino ball going on. Just go in there, introduce yourself, and tell them what you want to do. Maybe somebody will help you out. I thought, well, I'm not, my nickname is still Flower at this standpoint. I'm not just going to march into a domino ball and say, hey, I'm here to grow flowers in the county. Can you help me out? But I called one, and he was Maggie, which helped. And he wasn't at the domino ball. He was at his potato barn harvesting, and he let me borrow some land that very day. And I started farming in the fall of 2004 up in Wood County, up there in Neola. We still have a farm up there. And that's where we farm over 20 acres of flower bulbs now. It's a lot of fun. And then he asked me where I was sleeping. Well, first of all, here's a little town. Oh, I gotta turn my. Have y'all all been to Golden area? It's a lot of fun. Okay. My wife and I have taken the train from there to Fort Worth. I'm taking the train there all the way to New Orleans. It's a neat little town. Anyways, there's a little town of Golden. There's like 2 brick buildings, and there's the annual Sweet Potato Festival. And this is where I started farming bulbs. I'd go around visiting. This is in Rust, collecting flower bulbs from people I'd knew who would share their flower bulbs with me. And she told me about her grandmother who came from Missouri, who brought these tiger lilies down. And that was 3 generations ago. And now I was collecting little bulbils, and I needed a place to farm them. So I'd bring all the bulbs up to this land in Wood County. And the farmer said, where are you sleeping? And I said, well, I rented an office, and I have a cot that I sleep on. And then I take showers at all my friends' houses around the state. He said, my grandparents built this red cabin in like the 30s. You can stay there. Nobody lives there. So I lived in a little red cabin for about 10 years of my life. Eventually got married. Somebody married me. Unabomber cabin. I don't know how she did it. But she did it. Almost 3 years she lived in there with me. it was neat because, we had the farm. So that's kind of how it all started. That's, cauliflower and farming flower bulbs and collecting them. We're going to talk about all those flower bulbs. We're going to talk quick because we're here to shop. But I really didn't know what was going to happen next in life until House and Garden had me in their magazine as a tastemaker. And this was the issue. They had me to New York for this big party, and I was really out of place. And they said, "What do you call you down here?" And I said, "I'm Bolt Boy, Flower." Well, the New York Times had a reporter there, and they sent her down to spend 3 days looking for flower bulbs. And that's when they called me the Bolt Boy. So that's how the name started. So here I am now, farming flower bulbs. Now I've got a New York Times thing. Now I'm writing a book. I'm like 26. It's not a good idea. But it's a lot of fun. So I'm balancing collecting flowers and getting to go to like places like the flower show and having fun. But really, if you were to boil the bulb company all down, it was a search for just a big red tulip that would come back every year. This is awesome. Just a big red tulip. That's so it's a search for a perennial red tulip. And as I'm going around all these places, I started to be confronted with lots of different flower bulbs and an idea of beauty. And I want to start here, because this is a high level, because you're here at the Smith County Master Gardeners. And what you're not going to see here is you're not going to see these flower bulbs here. Now these are really beautiful. And I married a florist, and I love florists, and I love what they do. This is the Chelsea Flower Show, and these are beautiful hyacinths. And at the Chelsea Flower Show, you'll see the latest and greatest daffodils. I mean, it's really perfection of art. If we were to honestly talk to anybody about flower bulbs, maybe some of y'all who came here today, they say they're going to talk about flower bulbs, and somebody said, "Oh, they're going to talk about tulips." No, I think they might. I think they're going to talk about other bulbs, and I get that. I'll tell somebody I grow flower bulbs, and they'll go, "Oh, he knows tulips." Well, not really. I grow a lot earlier than daffodils. So why am I mentioning them twice now? Well, the number one flower bulb people think about is, everybody? Tulips, right? Okay, well, they're beautiful, but they're mostly annuals for us. And we're here as gardeners. We want things in our gardens. Now, I have a 1943 brick home that's actually right on the corner, and every year I do an annual tulips. And I love tulips. I love the annual display. And what I do when they're done blooming, I throw them away, right? I rip them up and I put them in the trash. Doesn't that sound like an anathema to you? Why would I do that? Well, they're not perennials. I mean, I'm not going to live my horticulturally scarred experience all over again, right? I'm going to do to it. I'm going to plant them, they're going to bloom, and I'm going to change it out and put something else there for annual color. So these are annual type flower bulbs. What you get here, what you get on the inside, are perennials. They might not be as spectacular the first year, but it's years 3, 4, 5, the second generation, the third generation, where they just get better and better and better and more spectacular. So if you were to take our flower bulbs right away, like these little jonquils, and throw them into a pot, well, they're going to look like that. Now, I would argue that's pretty and it's just beautiful, but it's a different aesthetic for sure, right? You wouldn't walk into a florist shop and just pick this up. But what these jonquils will do is they'll spread in your garden. They'll naturalize. They'll become a member of your perennial garden. The gladiolas that I believe are here somewhere, these Byzantines, they're going to naturalize them along the fence rows. And you're only going to have to plant them once. Because what do you have to do with all those tulips? Here's my farm. This is like swilled sweet potato rows, and those are grand primos growing. I just leave them out there, right? And they come back every year, and they get better and better. I know it's not like a Dutch Holland farm, but I don't have to be fancy. I don't move it up. But I leave those in the ground. What do you have to do with tulips? They need these things called chilling hours. And that's, if you don't know what a chilling hour is, talk to a master gardener, they'll tell you. But it's the number of hours in the winter that's usually below 45 degrees, depending on how you define it, between 32 and 45 degrees. What are we at here? Are we at 900 chilling hours? 800? Anybody? Greg, though. Sorry, Greg, put you on the spot. How many chilling hours do we get a year? Just make sure you're paying attention. That's okay. Tulips need about 2,000 chilling hours. So that's what we put our 1,200 hours that we got to get our tulips between 32 and 45 degrees. Well, how do you do that? Well, the only thing that we have in our household to get tulips that cold are refrigerators. So then you got to put these Dutch Darwin hybrid tulips in the refrigerator for 9 weeks. Then you plant them. Well, and then you throw them away after they bloom for 3 weeks, right? You see where we're kind of heading with this? So that's not what we're talking about here. Those are annuals, and and I would do that for a small section of my flower bed that I spend 2 hours on a Saturday morning, no more. My back can't handle it, I don't have time for it, I've got children, I've got busy schedules. I'm just not gonna spend my whole life doing these massive tulip displays. I want to plant things that are come back to me. So without much further ado, and no running out of time, let's just run through some things you might see in the flower world, things you might see as you bolt on. And I like to start with fall because that's where we are now, and all of y'all probably know about the red spiderwort, right? Like Florus radiata, yes. It's spectacular. It's probably the quintessential perennial heirloom southern flower bulb. It's been here since the 1850s. There it is, just in an old home site. It's the oldest home west of the Mississippi River. There it is, the old American cemetery. And you can see it on these naked stalks, which is why some people call this the naked lady, or surprise lily, or hurricane lily. Also called British soldiers, because you can see them marching across fields in their redcoats, so to speak. Blooms first, then the foliage comes up in the wintertime. So let's talk about all of these things we're planting now that are either fall bloomers or the things we're planting out that are spring bloomers. They need winter sun. All right, I just want to be clear. So look, these are blooming in the shade because it's getting winter sun. These are deciduous trees. So here's some fundamentals here real quick. Actually, let's go to the really number one fundamental, and then we'll talk about this. What's the number one reason flower bulbs don't bloom? Anybody? Heard sun, heard water, fertilizer. Well, it sounds a little hokey. The number one reason flower bulbs don't bloom is because people don't plant them in the ground. I can't tell you how many times my relatives say, "Oh, I found the back of bulbs you gave us in the garage from 2 years ago. Can I plant them now?" I'm like, no. Look, don't overthink all this. Put the flower bulbs in the ground, especially these. They will do just fine, all right? And do it. And when's the best time to plant flower bulbs? Now, when you have time. When's the best time to move them? When you have time. Don't wait for that perfect moment to move your flower bulbs around. Like, you might be selling a home, you might be going out of town for the summer. Ideally, yes, you want to do it in the opposite season or after they bloom, the foliage has had time to die down. We can talk about all that. Those are ideals, right? Because you want that foliage to die down. But don't overthink this. Just get them in the ground and do it when you have time. And then you're going to be happy. But sun is a big issue, right? So in the wintertime, that's the south over there, the sun starts hanging over the southern exposure. Well, if you put anything on the north side of the house, that's just complete shade. Things aren't going to do well. So put them on the southern exposure of your house where they're getting full winter sun. There's actually a lot of places in your garden that get full winter sun that you don't even realize, right? Because you're like, oh, it's shady all summer. That's the only time you think about shade. But go out there, after that first frost, all the leaves come down. That's when it starts to get warm. So even though these bloom in the fall, the foliage comes up in the winter and they need winter sun. Now here's the scene, the house is gone, that gas meter is going to get removed eventually. I know. All that's going to get busted up. But what is going to tell us that there used to be a house here? The flower bulbs are, right? They're the ones that are telling the story that somebody was there here in the garden and loved the garden. And that's exactly what you're planting in your garden today. You're planting the story of your life in that garden. It's really special. Here are these schoolhouse lilies, or the Oxford lilies that bloom all across Central Texas. I drove up from Wimberley last weekend, and they were blooming all across like Waco and Rockville and all these little home sites. And here's an example of another story. We know there's a tree here, right? Well, we know that there used to be a tree here. So if you want to leave a legacy in your garden, write your name in flower bulbs for your grandchildren. Make it the last thing you do before you move out of the house. Little black flower bulbs that are a Texas bulb through and through. It was a German plant who immigrated here in the 1850s, and in the 1890s, he went botanizing across Mexico and South America, and he brought this back, and really it's still prevalent among these little German and Czech communities across Central Texas. And there it is, just a nice solid clump. You start seeing this kind of architecture, and you're like, well, I better be looking for the schoolhouses this time of year. In fact, if you want to be like a bulb hunter yourselves, hop in the car after this bulb sale and just go down to like Hearn and just start driving around having fun. All right? Don't get shot. Don't start trespassing. I'm just telling you to drive around and look at flower bulbs, okay? I didn't tell you to do anything else. But it's a lot of fun. It's the time of year to do it. And a lot of these animals leave alone. This is in College Station, Texas, right? I'm going to start talking a little bit quicker because we want to get to the bulbs. But here's another fall bloomer. The yellow stern bergia, also called the autumn daffodil. Neil Sperry talks about this in McKinney and calls it the buttercups. And we have it here, don't we? Where is the stern bergia? Can you raise your hand? Okay, it's over there in the far left. Okay, great. I think those still bloom. My schoolhouse lilies have already bloomed in the crates, I think, but those, you can find them to bloom. This is a really neat flower bulb that blooms in the fall. It looks like an autumn daffodil. And this picture I took in Weatherford, Texas. So it does well here, it does well in Weatherford. This picture I took in Midlothian, South Dallas. I was giving a talk to the North American Flower Bulb Wholesalers Association. This is like 10 Dutchmen and 5 Israelis. From both in South America. And ironically, it was down in San Antonio. It was a lot of fun. They were a great group. There were some more people there. I'm over exaggerating the story. So I get to the point where they're not really impressed with these quote unquote old bulbs that are 100 years old in our home sites, right? But then I get to this flower bulb, and they're nice. But I get to this flower bulb, and the Israeli folks start talking, and they raise their hand and say, hey, stop. You've been talking about old bulbs. They're not really old. But this one, he said, that you're showing right now, we got on ancient Babylonian sites, 5,000-year-old sites. And I'm like, wow, well, okay, you got me beat. Well, we grow it here in Texas too, so it's really an old flower bulb, Sternbergia luteaceae. A lot like the red spider lily, right? The foliage comes up in the winter. In case anybody wants to dork out, they're called Hysteranthus bulbs that bloom first and foliage later. Okay, it's an intention down on that one. So. Another fall bloomer that we love, really late summer fall bloomer, is the pink version of the red spider lily, like Chorus radiata. And there it is right there. Often called the naked lady as well. I do a lot of searches on my website for this flower bulb. They stay for about 5 seconds and they don't like my website. So, but it's a great flower bulb. It's great. And it's finicky here. I mean, I've seen it blooming in neighborhoods around here. My wife's about ready to dig all ours up because they struggle to bloom well. They do well from here. They really get better as you can touch your cannon. They get amazing as you get to Iowa and Missouri. It's incredible. Like Chorus is going through. We're also on the line though for another like Chorus going south, which I love and I have planted around here, which is the yellow like Chorus. And this one will do well from here all the way down to Galveston. It's a little more cold sensitive. And my very first yellow like Chorus, this is the site where I dug it in Houston. It was over here in Lantana, and I had to walk past the food on the traffic cone and matches right there to get there. And I knocked on the door, and like a college student, I cracked open, and I woke him up at like 10 a.m. He's like, dude, what do you want? I'm like, well, this is really special yellow flower bulb over here. He said, you can have whatever you want. Like, shut the door. So that's how I got my first yellow like Chorus. Love like Chorus Aria. It's just, it's like a bright orange version of the red spider lily with like 25% larger and it lasts longer as cut flowers too. That I grow some in Houston, that's just me using these cut flowers. So that's back there as well. Really, I highly encourage you to have that in your garden. You might want to mulch in here. The last 2 years, those trees are just ridiculous, right? So I'm hoping we don't have that for a while. They're still going to come back, but those trees work. Those trees work great for the pink naked ladies though. And the last fall bloomer I really like is the Indican Coronarium, the white tipped lily. Well, you can have it for some of the too, or we can have it in the future. It's a good fragrance. But we do have paper whites. Can you raise your hand what the paper whites are? Anybody? Can you read paper whites? Okay, thank you. Now, why do I love paper whites so much? There are old-fashioned paper whites, but I also like the modern paper whites. And you'll see these all across the big box stores. I saw them at a lot of them. They are worth their weight in gold for filling a gap for me. So those are all my fall bloomers, and I said there's a flower bulb that blooms every week of the year. Well, I plant these now though so that I can have blooms for Thanksgiving. And I wait 2 weeks and I plant some more so I can have blooms for Christmas. And then I wait a week so I can have some more so I can have blooms for New Year's. And that's just what I do with my paper whites. Not quite this whole perennial heirloom we're talking about, but it's a great filler for me. In fact, what I do for my annual beds, where I was talking about those Dutch tulips, is that this time of year, I've cleared it all out. Next weekend, I'm probably going to go plant it full of paper whites and pansies. And it's going to just be my display bed all the way through January 1st. And then the first week of January, I'm going to rip all those up and I'm going to plant those tulips that I've got in my fridge. And they're going to bloom around, usually Valentine's Day. And then I'm going to rip those up and I'm going to plant other animals. So that's what I'm doing with my annual bulb. And I'm not necessarily doing this in my perennial bulb. But I lost a 120-year-old oak tree in my backyard. I had to do something quick to fill it up with color, and the paper whites are a great way to do that. By the way, I think lots of flower bulbs are good to use in pots if you're using the right flower bulbs. Not all of ours are, but You know, pots have fillers, fillers, and spillers, and here's a nice spilling of Alyssa and paper whites being a thriller right in the middle. I think that's kind of a nice, quick combination to bring a lot of color to your gardens in the wintertime, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And what I do is I get every pot I can get my hands on this time of year. I load them all with paper whites and like violas, because I like violas more than painting, and get more color mass. I leave them outside until they're all about to bloom, and then I bring them all inside, and I have about 20 centerpieces, too, full of like paper whites and like little violas and carrying through the wintertime. That's what I use those paper whites back there for. This is my oldest daughter when she was young. You can see I just put together just a quick combination, right? And everybody thought I was the best gardener in the world. They walked just for this little simple trick. Like, oh, she's getting better homes and gardens, everything's so pretty. There's paper whites, you know what I mean? Paper whites I was using just to build displays for an outdoor Thanksgiving dinner, right? So, but if you can plant them out in your garden. This is what they'll look like once they're naturalized around December, January. And I took that picture in Palestine. Problem with paper whites in the wintertime is that we usually get a balloon order that's going to come through and freeze their heads off. That's full of ice right there. And then you're done. Which leads me to the point of like, if you're going to be ideal in when you dig and divide all these flower bulbs that bloom in the spring, ideally you need to leave that foliage all the way till at least May when it dies down naturally. If you cut the foliage off on flower bulbs, you're cutting off its highway of food supply. I mean, these bulbs are nothing more than modified leaves. Like when you buy that bulb, those are all those compressed leaves, and that's what the food storage is. And when they're growing, they're pushing all those leaves up. They're pushing all those leaves up to make photosynthesis and convert light into sun energy. And then they're sending it all back down to the bulb when they die down naturally. So if you go cut the foliage off, that's like the worst thing you can do. It'd be better to just dig the flower bulbs after they bloom. And if you don't know where you want them, just to leave the foliage on, let it die down naturally. And still get them to harden up kind of nicely. It's kind of like, this is a new analogy I started using yesterday for the first time in Dallas. That's people yesterday morning. It's kind of like solar panels. The leaves are like solar panels. And if you cut the foliage off, it's like cutting the wires and go to the battery. How's that? Right? A little modern analogy. So don't cut the batteries don't cut the wires that go to the battery. Just let it die down naturally. But as we move to January, we've got other narcissus that start appearing today. Remember, there's flower bulb blooming every single week of the year, and Italicus is one of those right there. And it starts giving us color even in the wintertime. And that's it just on the roadside where I found some blooming in January. You'll find them in old cemeteries. And then we move to February, and we have the lint lily blooming. And this is those true trumpet-shaped daffodils that we see naturalizing. And you can find areas like this across the southeast, which is really pretty. Why is the lint lily important? Because it blooms with another February bloomer, which we have a lot of, the jonquil. And the jonquil is a small little narcissus, but it is very sweet, very sweet. Now, you're asking, when you use the words daffodil and narcissus differently, what do you mean by that? Well, all daffodils are narcissus. It's just somewhere in our culture, throughout the generations, anything with a trumpet shape on it is a narcissus, we call it daffodil. So we call this a daffodil very often, but we just call these little jonquils. Well, they're both narcissus. Paper whites are narcissus, right? That's the genus they all belong to. So it can be a little confusing, but the genus Narcissus is what carries us through our perennial gardens from November, December, January, February, and into March. And so what you see in all the publications and magazines is like daffodils. We want perennial daffodils for southern gardens. We want daffodils here in our garden. We want daffodils that come back every year. And what we're really saying is we want the wide selection of narcissus that works well in my garden. And that's what you're getting here at the bulb sale. You're getting a wide selection of narcissus that work well in your gardens. Now, why do we love the jonquil? If you've never smelled the sweet smell of the jonquil, you're in for a real treat. And they set a lot of seed. They'll spread over large areas as well. I was driving to Arkansas last year and stumbled upon this side on the road. I just wanted to roll down the hill and just take a nap. And you know what they were covered with? Bees. Because what else are they going to pollinate in February? So these bees are just flocking with the sweet smelling jonquil. Well, it set seed, and then that lentil I showed you set seed, and if you get the two of them bred together, you get campanelles. And campanelles are the hybrid that you would really want in your garden. Some folks call them the giant jonquil. These are going to be the closest you can get to really having just a whiz-bang, trumpet-shaped daffodil that comes backyard here. And it was just finding old home sites like this dotted around. Then there's the Grand Primo, which is a great narcissus. I'm running out of time here, I believe, so I don't want to. Yep, there we go. We got the signal. Mid-March, Golden Dawn. My brother loves these. He's a Delta pilot, and these are blooming. Here's a picture on our farm. When these bloom in March, it means the bass are spawning in East Texas, so that's when he always comes. And then Galveston, right after a hurricane, all the big trees have died. But these flower bulbs, the snowflakes kept coming back. And the snowflakes definitely weren't having regards. I was in Louisiana, and there's one lovely lady wanted to show me her collection of snowflakes. And I thought, okay, I'm sure it's a neat little garden. Well, I got to her home site overlooking the Washita River here in Monroe, and I was blown away with all the snowflakes.
Wow.
That's sweet Adele. She had a really great. We went there after lunch, and the only thing is, on Thursday, every Thursday, Adele has liver for lunch. Not liver and it's like liver and a glass of water. It was something else. But then we saw lots of pretty flower bulbs afterwards. So that was a fun trip. Then there's great hyacinths, and but I think, let's talk about Byzantine glads real quick, because I know you've got them back there. Byzantine glad section's over there, I think. I see it. All right, hello, Byzantine glad little section. You need to charge the Sternbergia, you need to charge the Byzantine glads. You can charge everywhere. Just look out. Sorry. Byzantine glads are amazing. They're purple and magenta. You're going to get it in that color. It's so worth it. They don't flop over. They come back every year. It's well worth it. And I think they brighten up any garden. You can see them blooming in mid-April there with the amaryllis. This is at Dr. Wilson's garden in Louisiana. And nice, tall, and strong. I need to wrap it up, so let's just go ahead and go past the hardy amaryllis here, and let's go past the Easter lilies. Let's talk about the Philippine lilies right here, which are blooming. This is a lily that blooms in 100-degree heat in July for us here. And this is a spectacular lily. It comes up to my chest, all the way up like right here in my eyes. And it just makes these massive impacts. The first time I saw them was actually in Houston. I had to go to the MD Anderson Cancer Center to visit somebody. They got a bunch of gardens down there. And in the middle of this urban setting, this is at MD Anderson in Houston. Philippine lilies doing their category. I've got them in mass here at my house in my backyard. Loved it. What's really cool about this time of year when all the salvias start blooming, those seed pods of all kinds of trumpet shapes going up like this, they're all going to turn brown and they're going to make these seeds that will just, you can cut it down here and you can go around your house garden, like take these long soft seed pods, almost blessing it, and like seeds are just covering your hair and they will turn into a bloom-sized flower within 1 year. I love the Philippine lilies. You got to work them in your garden. And then there's little pink rain lilies. Alana, I promise I'm wrapping it up, but I just got to tell the story about this. I see that. That's a home run. I saw it at the Astros last night. Okay. Love rain lilies. Here's what they're going to do for you. Okay, having my brother's front planter, my brother's pilot, they weren't blooming. These flower bulbs are cyclical. They'll look like grass sometimes, but not blooming, right? And when they do that, a lot of people think there's nothing going on. Flower bulbs will surprise you. My brother had taken his rain lilies because they look like grass, put them in a trash bag around the side of the house, and did like a quote-unquote color change out with annuals. I said, John, where are those flower bulbs? Those are really special to me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, we put them in trash bags around the side by the trash cans. I grabbed the trash bags, I took them back to my garden at the farm. The next morning, I opened those trash bags up, and voila. This is what rain lilies are going to do for you when you have them in your garden. You're going to be surprised, you're going to love them. Lots of different rain lilies out there. Let's talk about the native Hymenaecalis Liriosme, which is a real special flower bulb. Have you seen this blooming in ditches around April? Well, we actually have them here, but they are worth paying $30 a piece for. They're not that much, because guess what? They grow in swamps with water moccasins. That's how you get them, right? So it is a native. It's at sea. It likes to be wet in winter and bone dry. There are some crinums here. These are all the shovels I've broken trying to get shovels out of the ground. Plant crinums where you want them, okay? So if I were to wrap up all these fun pictures, we can always talk again in the future about flower bulbs that are taller than me. We can talk about flower bulb hunting. I do want to say, if you've got bulb hunting, an open gate is what you're looking for. That's permission to walk on somebody's land. Not always ask for permission. Leave bulbs behind and fill those holes back in the dirt so they're not twisting their ankle or bumping around. Those are the rules. 99% of the time, people will make an exception for you when you're a master gardener or a flower bulb lover. They'll let you dig holes. Daffodils are great. Avoid people who don't want you on their land. You trespass and die. I took that picture. But again, there's always an exception. It's like no trespassing unless you're a sunset picture taker. That's a Lake Palestine. I love that song. Like there's no trespassing unless you love flower bulbs. Then we can come talk to us. Look, found that red tulip we'll have it here one day. A pretty red tulip scratched that itch as a child. The tulip gray box is this flower bulb that will actually naturalize in Central Texas. It's really cool. That's why I wrote my book about it. The boat's over here. We've got lots of flower bulbs back here. Rebecca and I moved out of that red cabin and moved in around the corner just over here. So they're cooking pancakes as we speak. So I'm happy to be a part of your community. I'm honored to be here today, here to help answer questions about flower bulbs. I'm done. Thank you very much.
And now it's time for our second speaker, our fearless leader, Greg Grant, who is our Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service horticulture agent here in Smith County. How many of you ever heard him speak? How many of you have read his books? How many of you read his blog? Or his Facebook page? Ooh, we got the fans, Greg. So, Greg writes articles for the Tyler paper and the Lindell newspaper. He's a well-known and well-published in the horticulture world and a true blessing to our community. He's a writer, photographer, conservationist, and seventh-generation Texan from Arcadia, Texas. He hates when I tell all this, but you gotta know it if you're not ready to speak. He's an author and or a co-author of multiple gardening books. You saw the collection over here. And he is a proud Titan. Texas Aggie. He has 2 degrees from A&M in both horticulture and floriculture. He has continued his education with classes at Louisiana State University, North Carolina State University, and Stephen F. Austin University, where he's currently, hopefully, finishing his PhD. We need him to get done with that. He never gets through learning, if you haven't caught that. He also has a long list of experience as a horticulturist, but I'm going to stop with that because he's going to tell you all about it when he gets up here. But I do want to also say he's #1 fan. He's here. His mom is here in the audience, so I know she's very proud of him, and we're very proud of him here too. And so, I'm going to give it to Rick.
All right, my middle name as a child, as my mom knows, was shut up, and so at some point they'll yank me off the stage, so let's get moving. First of all, everybody loves tulips, and so every kid that got into bulbs started in love with tulips. So here I am in 5th grade, taking in school in Longview with my sister up there, playing a little Dutch boy, dreaming of having a tulip farm one day. And so that was before I knew you couldn't have a tulip farm anywhere near Texas. And so we both share that tulip love. As a matter of fact, I was going to be an artist, a chef, or a horticulturist, and so I put tulips in every picture I drew. And I was quite a little artist, but me and German lady that ran the school there, and she said, you can't put a tulip in every picture that you draw. You've got to diversify your bulbs. And so I've been doing that ever since. And so I didn't end up with a tulip farm, but I did end up with a little bulb farm. And it's a hobby bulb farm. And so Chris has a real bulb farm. I have a hobby farm. And nothing wrong with that. So can't do pretty old tulips here, but I can do lots of other stuff. Now, I'm old enough now that this bulb selling conference has been going on 25 years, a quarter of a century. And so this was the speaker of the bulb farm at bulb sale #1. And so, but I have to give all the credit to Ed McGee, lifetime member of the Smith County Master Gardener Association, because I'm the product of both my parents were teachers, and so I'm a lifelong teacher. And as a teacher, you have lots and lots of students, and you're lucky if one of them in the class is paying attention to you. And so Ed was one of the best students I ever had. Wasn't a college student, but was a Master Gardener student. And so I come up with a good idea about every 30 seconds, but coming up with an idea and making that idea a reality are two very different things. And you can ask my mentor, Dr. Parsons, about that. So Ed took that idea, ran with it, and it's been quite a success for 25 years. And so thank you, Ed McGee and Joe Helen McGee, for making this all possible. And so what I do now, every year I take a few bulbs from a little farm for this sale, continued that when I started 25 years ago. So this year, I dug a row of a jonquil hybrid called Trevian, or Trevian, from England, so I don't know how they pronounce that town there. It's a really cool heirloom, bred in England, 1927, I think. It's a kind of similar genetics as a Campanile jonquil. I got it from cousin C.A. Jones from Gibbsland, Louisiana. Her grandmother used to grow it at Sister's Bulb Farm, was a Depression era bulb farm. So it's no longer in the trade. It's just one of those fine pass-alongs. But what it's famous for is it's possibly the most fragrant narcissus cultivar ever. Certainly anything I've ever grown that she's ever grown. So it just reeks of perfume. Not paper white, not jonquil. Its own distinct perfume fragrance. And it is a fragrant jonquil hybrid. So that's Trevian. And I dug those are my children, so you be gentle with them. So one bushel that Greg dug on his hands and knees a little bit at a time, with both artificial hips. And so take those home and enjoy them, and they'll outlive you and perfume your spring every year. So that's the Trevian jonquil. Jonquils are one of the best choices for East Texas because they all go back to a wild species from Spain, Narcissus jonquilla. And so they come from a part of the country which is dry part of the year and wet part of the year. And so most jonquil hybrids are good for you. So that's at Stephen Boston State University. If you ever pass through there about tail end of February, you can see jonquil hill there. And so there aren't any Trevian in there, but I will, since I'm going to school there and I love Guerrilla Garden, I will sneak through there and poke some Trevian jonquils to go with the others. So my friend Don Stover planted those. A few other things we're having to sell. One of them is multiplying onions or winter onions, or what a lot of people in the Gulf South call gumbo onions. And so these are perennial onions. These aren't bulbing onions. These are onions to make green onions for cooking with. I'm married to a Cajun who can't cook anything without parsley and green onions. And so it's very important that I grow these every year. And just about everybody in South Louisiana does. So it's a perennial. You have it forever. In the old days, you can go to the feed store and buy starch seeds. Well, not that many gardeners or farmers left anymore. So it's kind of hard to come by. But once you have it, you start with a single bulb. It grows the same growth cycle as the daffodils. Grows to the winter time. Harvest foliage all during the winter and spring. Springtime makes fairly attractive blooms. We have almost no ornamental animals through here, so you have to take what you can get. So fairly attractive in bloom. They get the pollinators. Then it goes dormant in the summer. And then you dig that clump up if you want to. Pull it apart. That one little bulb will make 6, 8, 10, or 12. And then you have a little row or share with your friends, and the next year you've got 124. And so you can keep it in a basket all summer long or a paper bag and see it back in the ground by about October. So it's a perennial bulb used for not the bulbs, but the green foliage. I don't have here things I used to, but the Gladiolus byzantinus is an old-fashioned gladiolus. It's been cultivated for hundreds of years in the South, very rarely available in the trade, and so I only dug a few. I don't have a patch like this anymore, but it's one of the hard to come by, not a true bulb, actually a corn, but one of the few perennial gladiolus for Texas. So that's Gladiolus byzantinus. But once you have it, you'll have it forever. So I started with 5 as a child, and eventually built up a block of 10,000. And so now I don't have that many, but I'm trying to build up my stock so we can have those each year to sell. Doesn't need staking, perennial, doesn't need dividing, doesn't need water, doesn't need fertilizer. So the perfect sort of plants for here. Got a few of these that I done. I don't know its real name, I'm sure it had a real name one time. If you're from the north or anywhere north of Oklahoma, bearded iris are really popular. Go to the northwest, they can grow hundreds and hundreds of cultivars. They're spectacular, but the closer you get to the Gulf Coast, the quicker they melt and wither away and die, either during wet winters or wet summers. So to find a really pretty German or bearded iris that tolerates Texas. It's pretty rare. We've got cemetery iris all over Texas. We've got some really, really old species of bearded iris like Van Gogh painted. But this is a fancier repeat lumen iris. And it came from a friend of mine who's a fellow Texas rose rustler in Fort Bend County. And she got it from her beautician, and so she gave it to me as the hairdresser iris. And we shared it with Dr. Welch, but Dr. Welch said, they don't call them hairdressers anymore. They're beauty operators. So he changed the name to beauty operator iris. Its real name is long gone. If you're an iris aficionado, maybe you can find out the name. But big, beautiful, sunset sort of colors, repeat bloomers. There are very few big pretty German irises that even live here, much less repeat bloomers. And so it's just a still pass along, does well. And of course, Fort Bend is about as muddy and humid as you can get. So the last place you think you get a pretty bearded iris from, but it's just a pass along. My wife was asking one of those holes around the yard yesterday, so that every one that I had loved this cell. So that's the beauty of greater iris. Iris full of the 20 daily. It's nothing fancy if anybody's in the Daily Society is cringing because I'm even talking about this. But it's the toughest, longest lived, it's the parent of all daylilies. And you'll hear the Daily Society people, which I learned as a child, that's the Hemorrhoid Society. And so they'll say it's invasive. It's not invasive, that make me see it's a sterile plume, but it will eat up wimpy little plants in your flower bed and you will have a bed full of orange daylilies. Because as a kid, I wanted to grow stuff that you couldn't grow. And the older you get, I'm like, just give me something that grows. It'll be alive when I get home from the vacation of the weekend. And this is one that will do it. And so Dr. Welch, my mentor, who wrote the Pretty Garden book, this was a famous picture he took years ago in Fredericksburg. And Fredericksburg, Texas is not good for even growing plants. It's good for growing old. It's not for growing plants. And so to have any daily, you don't see fancy cutflower daylilies or Daily Society daylilies in Fredericksburg, but it was a really pretty row of Palace full of the straight wild species daylily, which apparently all parts are edible and was actually eaten up in the wild in Asia. It goes way back here. He also painted the famous roses. He also did what's called Liliaceae and painted a lot of famous bulbs back there in the day. So here's 1800 picture of Palace full, still around hundreds of years later. And it'll be alive after you're dead and gone. That's pretty comforting to know that you've got plants that aren't going to die. And I've also, just some anecdotal experience, daily rust is a huge issue, especially with fancy, pretty tetraploid daylilies. And so this is one of the most resistant to daily rust, and you can't kill it. And every now and then, people, I'll show a plant like this, and they say, I don't like that. And I'll say, why? I said, you can't kill it. I said, well, you want plants that die? Well, no, you can't have it both. You got one that lives or one that dies. So what is it? And so some gardeners, I enjoy when something dies, instead of getting to plant something new. But you like the majority of your plants in your landscape to be things that will come back even with or without you. So that's Hemorrhoid full of the tawny daylily. Another rare plant that we have a few of on the sale is Canna Iridiflora Eumania. Cannas go way back to the Victorian period. They all descend from the tropical species in Central America. And we used to breed all these different categories. There was a time when a class on called the iris flowered cannas. That's where it gets the name Iridiflora. So this was a cross between two different species. One on appearance from Costa Rica. A gentleman named bred this, so Eumania. Really rare French hybrid. And I used to grow it for old house gardens. In fact, I actually do rows of it. It's a big thing. It's like a cross between a banana tree and a fuchsia with upside down hanging flowers. I mean, not typical of what you'd see with today's cannas that were bred for bedding plants. But the one they used to sell to old house gardens was smaller and had stripes in the leaves. It turns out it had virus. Most of the cannas in the United States had virus, and had a big trend of people trying to clean up the canna stock. So I had a friend who went to visit Costa Rica, and I said, would you please look for wild Canna Iridiflora when you're in Costa Rica? And so she didn't find the wild Canna Iridiflora, but she found this growing in somebody's garden, which was the French hybrid from the one. It was actually what I wanted. And so it turned out to be virus-free, so much bigger, healthier plant, but really hard to come by. It's not the most cold hardy, usable protection during the wintertime. It does not like to be stored dry like other cannons. You can dig up all the country to dig up the cannons in the wintertime, store them in the root cellar in the house or the shed. This one does not like to stop growing. But it's just a big bold, more of a piece of architecture cannon. So that's it. We're going to for Canna Eumania. Got a few of little wine lilies. This is the one I inherited from my grandmother, my mom's mother. Actually, it came from my granddad's aunt, Estelle, in Madison. So an old pass along little wine lily. One that has dark pink and white stripes. Sterile, that same seed really depends on bloomers. So they call them milk and wine lilies, of course, because they have the color of milk and wine. Perfumed at night. Just a good, easy thing to grow. Of course, as Dr. Wells said, no crown has ever died. And so unless you take it north of Oklahoma or you lock it in the closet, it's not going to die. And you can make woods may grow around it, it may stop blooming, but they're not going to die. And so crowns are for the south, but crown is Greek for lily. So when we say crown lilies, we're really saying lily lilies. They are to the south what peonies are to the north. These big bulbs pass along family heirloom. Pink gold crowns in the north, pink gold peonies in the south. So you've heard the Mason-Dixon line, there's actually a peony crown line too. So. Now, in the raffle over here, there's a bulb, it doesn't have the right picture, so that picture is from P.F. Ranger that I just showed you. The raffle crown is something different. This is a wild species. That same lady that brought me the canna grew from seed a really rare crown from Angola. Most of the crowns are from Africa. Well, this is crown fimbriatulum. If you notice, it's a huge bulb because the bulb that I was going to give, I decided I'd be smart this year and I would use a potato fork to make it easier. Grace getting old. And so when you dig a bulb with a potato fork, it just shreds the bulb into pieces. So then I had to do my big old clump and dig up. And I decided, well, I will put the biggest one in there. So crowns can make bulbs the size of a football. And so whoever gets it, get some help carrying it out there. And it's not the one that you see in the picture, it's this one right here, the crown fimbriatulum. It's seed first, so if you want to breed crowns, this is a good one to use. Also has those dark pink stripes, more upright flowers. And like all crowns, they're moth pollinated, so really fragrant at nighttime. So if you got kids, you want to watch the hummingbird moths, the sphinx moths, they'll do their thing all night long on crown lilies. So that's one of the raffle plants over there. I brought a few, a rare rain lily called Zephyranthus Buffaloroseum. And so it's a natural hybrid that the Yucatan people discovered in Mexico years ago. The original was light pink, and they grew out seedlings, and over time they were moving from white to dark pinks, from petals that were spaced apart to petals that overlap. So this is one of the prettiest seedlings. It has really pretty pink petals and overlapping petals. And so I just happen to have a clump or two to dig of those. So that's Zephyranthus Buffaloroseum, which is supposed to be a natural hybrid between Couperia in Mexico and Zephyranthus in Mexico, so certainly not common in the trade. And then whoever won the raffle plant from the bulb sale got some peacock lilies, which just to show you how we both nuts are crazy, it took me 25 years to grow seed of some pink grain lilies to have enough of pink grain lilies, and you get all these different colors. So red grain lilies aren't known for so much seed. Pink ones will. If you've got the time and patience, which my time and patience are both running out, you can grow lots of different colors. There is a rare white one in North Carolina and a picture of one from Argentina, so hopefully before I'm making the brown, I'll have a white one to multiply as well. So, no such thing as too much white lilies. Hopefully Chris explained that to you. So I started with 3 when I first moved to College Station, and I won't be happy to have 3 billion because they're eternal, beautiful, and will outlive you as well. So just quickly, kind of breaking the bulbs. This kind of sums it up right here. Albert Camus was a French philosopher who said, a man's work is nothing but a slow trek to rediscover through the detours of art those 2 or 3 great and simple images in whose presence his heart burst open. So every time I saw a bulb scene, it imprinted on my brain, and I'm like, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And for a typical person, I want that, I want more than that, I want that, plus that, plus that, plus that. So just a few scenes of things that imprinted on me. Cleo Barnwell lived in Shreveport. She loved bulbs, wildflowers, and antique roses. And so she took me around as a youngster, as Dr. Parsons, my other mentor, said when Greg was in his embryo stage, and showed me some really cool places. And so I fell in love. I was familiar with a few bulbs, but I hadn't seen lots of bulbs before. So she took me to see Sadie Jones in Gibson, Louisiana. Who would know that I was distantly related to this woman? But she shared everything she knew. Her grandmother was one that had that bulb farm, spectacular place, because they lived and lived and lived. And they took me to the country to see a grumpy old man, Mr. Butler, as well I remember. And you go to the nursery every year and say, I'll give you $5 for all the bulbs you got left. You take them and plant them in this pasture every year, plant. No solar man, no fertilizer, no water, no anything. All you have in the apartment is pear trees, quince trees, and a bazillion daffodils. And spectacular scenes. So we're really blessed from East Texas to the East Coast that we can grow a lot more daffodils and narcissus and jonquils than Central Texas and the West. So as soon as you get into the alpine soils, you pretty much rule out the yellows and the jonquils and the daffodils doing well. You pretty much down to narcissus and the which are Mediterranean. But from here to east, you can't just poke a lot of heads in the ground. And then they took me to see Tara Lou Adams, the late Tara Lou Adams. She was a dynamo. I don't know how else to describe her. And so she took her late husband's old home place in central Louisiana. And after he passed away, he would do what I did. Just go out and dig well, old home places, scatter them around the 4 acres there. But when he passed away, to deal with the breeding, she said, I'm just going to keep planting bulbs there. And she did that, and did that, and did that. She had 4 acres of daffodils. Doing the Daffodil Society, created quite a spectacular scene. Her family still opens it one time a year in the spring for people to go visit free of charge. So that's the Nelson Adams Memorial Daffodil Field in central Louisiana. Then I started my own little bulb farm, not because I wanted to be a farmer, but I just want to know the bulbs that you work here aren't for sale in Dutch catalogs. And that bulb didn't do very well here. So as I collect these bulbs, I thought, well, let's just see if we can make rows. It all came from this little lady, Mrs. Weedless, that Cleo took me to see in central Louisiana, who had rows of bulbs in her backyard, and she sold them in the Louisiana market a little bit. I thought, well, hey, I come from farmers, I can roll out bulbs. And so it turns out we can have bulbs here. So take the death, we have people like Chris and a few other former students of mine that took up bulb farming. And so I would start with 1 clump of bulbs. You know, I'd divide that, and I made 1 row. Here's a good example. I started with 5 of these, and then I'd take 1 row, and I'd make 4 rows out of that. And I'd take those 4 rows and make 8 rows out of that. And so these bulbs that are truly adapted here are like the best investment you can ever make. Who has money that multiplies like that you can just leave there and just piles of it before you're getting into them? If you choose the right bulbs, you can really have bulbs that multiply and get better and better frequently as you live. So then I went on to create scenes like I'd seen in those places in 4 acre areas. 1 from my parents' place, there's 1 acre. Now this was a red clay gravel hill, so not a really good place for growing stuff. I remember my dad said, when he was a kid, grass didn't even grow in. So it was actually, after my head grass got introduced, and even grass over, it was just a bald, gravelly, red clay hill. And so if you choose the right stuff, it's tough enough, and jammed in the ground, like Chris said, and then we'll live. So that's that. And every year, people always say, well, how do you get selenium? You plant 1 here, and you plant 1 way over there. The next year, you plant 1 in the middle of that. The next year, you plant 1 between that one and that one. And then hopefully by the time you're an old being, you're crawling around and you have them 1 foot apart, and you look like the scenes that I showed you. My great-grandparents' house just down the road, she had bulbs around every tree, around every fire bed. When you hire somebody to mow, they're going to mow down the foliage, the bulbs are going to stop blooming. So I knew pretty quick, I'm going to take those bulbs out of the yard and move them out back where nobody mowed. And so all these were things that my great-grandma on this deed or pick mom used to grow. And I took those clumps and divided them and put them out there. It's the same place I have my little tribal bulb farm, hobby bulb farms as well. And then I bought an old house, for whatever reason, to get the land around it. Miss Lou Wheeler, who used to run the store in town, she had a row of jonquils, a row of Texas Star jonquils, and a row of letter eggs. And so with that place, I just hit divided and have 1 acre of bulbs as well. That's my 3rd place. And in the house where I live, I use only heirloom, old-fashioned bulbs to sort of fit the community here. So otherwise, you make anything pretty. So every year my wife sees me out there with a bucket running around in the mist in February, and she says, what are you doing out there? And my answer is always the same, I'm painting. You paint, literally, mother in bloom, and these things are tied up, you dig them full of bloom, divide them up, put them in a bucket of water, go and stick them in the ground. Worst that happens is they quit blooming 1 year, and then they bloom the rest of your life. Yeah. And so while they're blooming though, you can see what color they are, and you basically feel like Monet out there painting. When they're dormant, I have to be really careful because every time I plant something where I think there's no bulb, I'm planting them on top of the bulb, I'm chopping bulbs into pieces. And so nothing wrong with getting started with them dormant, that's the ideal time to plant. But once you have good stands on them, there's nothing wrong with them in full bloom and in full foliage. And then also there's fall bulbs as well, so there's oxford lilies and white spider lilies. Now, why do you want these bulbs? First of all, everything in the Emerald's family has toxic alkaloids in it, which means the rats don't eat them, the mice don't eat them, the gophers don't eat them, the bulls don't eat them, the cows don't eat them, the deer don't eat them. Now that I'm married and my wife is taking my pit dog and making it into a house dog, the deer eat everything in the yard. But they're not going to eat daffodils, jonquils, narcissus, rainbows, spiderlings, because they're not only poisonous, they have gooey sap in there, so nobody wants to eat toxic snot, including the cows. But they don't poison you, and they don't taste it. That's why they evolved to not taste it. That's what those toxic alkaloids are for. So some of the prettiest scenes I've ever seen are in pasture. My dad's a cattle rancher, and so they will weed for you, and they'll eat all the grass, but they're not going to eat the bulbs if they're in the Amarillo family. My late grandmother Ruth, she's dead and gone. My house is just about gone. Those bulbs are not only not gone, they're still getting better. So as long as you don't mow them off the foliage, they don't need you. In fact, most of them don't even want you. And there'll be a time, there are lots of places in the South where the only remembrance of that person is the bulbs that they planted. There'll be droughts, there'll be cold, the roses will die, the grapefruits will freeze, a bulldozer may take down the house, and a lot of times the only thing that's left is these heirloom bulbs. And that's pretty comforting to know, because most of us are worried. I'm worried about stuff dying before I get home this afternoon. Pot plants, window plants, things that were out there with their ivy hooked up, keeping alive. There's something really comforting in knowing that there are plants that are going to outlive you and get better every year while they do it. So, nice to know that. Now, while this sale is why it's special is because the Smith County Master Gardeners take the time to trial and test bulbs. And so in my lifetime, I've been doing this about more than a quarter of a century now, I've probably trialed 400 or 500 different types of narcissus from Holland, because I love those catalogs. Beautiful. Every picture is beautiful. Every description is beautiful. First of all, I've written a catalog before. We're never going to put an ugly picture. We're never going to say this plant doesn't grow in tile. If there's one good thing about it, that's what we're going to put in there. And it may look good for 1 second. That's the picture we're going to take. So don't just fall in love with the catalog, because out of those 400 or 500 bulbs that I've tried in my lifetime, I can count on my fingers and toes the ones that do well here. And so it's not just as simple as picking up a catalog. And so it takes a lot of work to figure out which ones not only work, but work well. And so my master gardeners every year have new ones to me. I said, well, how long does it have to do good before you say it's fit for you? I said, at least 20 years, and preferably 200 years. And so if it's just going to look good for a few years, no. And they always say, can we sell something that's pretty and don't come back? And we think like, no. And so it needs to grow without water, without fertilizer, without insecticide, without fungicides, and without dividing. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. And so, because you're wasting, I mean, I say you're wasting, you're never wasting your time when you're outdoors in gardening, but you're wasting your time if you plant something. I think it's going to live a long time and it doesn't. So nobody should plant a perennial. I think it's a perennial if it's an annual. And Chris mentioned that the tulips lasted for 4 days in Bakersfield. When I lived in San Antonio one year, it was 100 degrees in February. The tulips opened up, the petals fell off the same day. And so, about 40 minutes versus 4 days. I said, that's a lot of work to ship a bulb from another continent, put it in my refrigerator for 3 months, grow it all, plant it, grow it all winter long, and I looked at it that day and it's finished. So it better be dropping $100 bills if I'm using that. And so lots and 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 lots of things, one trash pile to dump pile, because they're not adapted for you. So I tell people all the time, having a plant, we gardeners are famous for this. Oh, I'm kind of hostile tonight, or I'm kind of lilac, and I look at that thing like, I would not show that to anybody. If that was a pet or a child, you'd be arrested and on the front page of the paper for that. So just keeping something alive is not what it's about. My rule about gardening, if it doesn't do better on your property than any place on the earth, you shouldn't be growing it. Because, would you buy anything? Here's a washing machine that only works about 30%. Here's a rug, but half of it's gone. Here's a house that's going to fall down in 3 years. No. And so, but because we love flowers, and I love flowers like anybody else, but there are plenty of them that do well, but there not be plant stuff that doesn't do well. And so that's the whole reason we have our little trial plots, and we change them out, and we bring in new stuff. But it's literally a small handful, because we're the opposite of Holland. We're the opposite of the North. We're the opposite of Europe. And so when I've got new gardeners and they say they're following somebody from Europe or they're following Martha Stewart or whatever, don't do that, because we're so opposite if somebody from the north or Europe or Holland says yes, here that means no. If they say live, here that means dead. If they say good, that means bad. Well, that's really hard to read and follow along, knowing that everything they say is completely opposite, but it is. And so we have our own unique climate, and so we have to follow trials and tests and experience from people here. And so we take the time to research all these things, their names, their breeding, the source, the provenance, and so that's all extremely important when you're in a very unique climate. And so I want you to learn more about gloves if you can. Remember our goal in this day and make a lot of extension is education. So one of the best books ever written for the South was my friend Scott Ogden, Garden Book for the South. And so that's still available from Amazon. And of course, Chris and Dr. Welch did the ball learning. He's got pictures of what's there. Thank goodness, right here. And so, amazing story, beautiful pictures. He and I both shared a mentor and learned lots and lots there. This says Florida. If you go to the American Daffodil Society website, you can order a book called Daffodils in Florida. And so Mr. Beck, before he passed away, he spent his whole life figuring out that most daffodils didn't work in the panhandle of Florida, but there were lots of pretty things in old home places that did, so he went to identify no bulbs, and he also ordered all the fancy bulbs in the Daffodil Society, and which ones worked good, which ones sort of worked, and which ones didn't work. He passed away, but then his wife and daughter published that information in the book, and so it might as well say it field back to East Texas, because it's very similar climate. If you get a chance in springtime, go visit Miss Lee's Daffodil Garden in Bladewater. I say Bladewater, it's actually in Smith County. And so Helen Lee planted the Brazilian daffodils. I think they're fortune. And so I've been in contact with them, and so we're going to try to work more with those folks. But a beautiful place to visit. Also, you'll want to visit the Tyler Rose Garden, where my master gardeners maintain the Tyler Botanical Garden, and love of those that we sell at this sale are planted in the garden there, so you can go back and see how they do it, and you can say, wait a minute, theirs look better than mine, or mine are better than yours, sort of thing. Hopefully they're all going to look the same, if you don't mess it up. And so by messing it up, they don't want water, they don't want full sun, you don't want to cut off the foliage so it's going dormant. So anything else, you're messing it up. And so I'm just showing a handful here, but I have almost 200 master gardeners in Smith County, and they work really hard. Not all of them work on the bulb sale, but most of them do. And they spend a lot of time and effort learning about bulbs, and of course continue this thing for a quarter of a century. Putting on the conference is an amazing endeavor. So he takes hundreds and hundreds of hours and hundreds of people to pull off the bulb sale and conference. And then we use the funds from the bulb sale to do our educational programs, to fund the scholarship. But this is not a big deal. People handing out sacks of bulbs. It's a monumental effort. And now that I own cats, I realize what herding cats is all about, and so this is not easy. It was mentioned we have a wonderful Facebook page, and so take advantage of that. I was telling the group the other day, I said, when I was looking for numbers to train on my monthly report, in the last 28 days, over 4 million people had looked at the Smith County Master Garden Facebook page in less than a month. Now, 3,987 of those are looking at the cartoons on Friday, but that's okay. The main thing is, whatever it takes to get them in and teach them something, we'll do. So we have a really outstanding Facebook page. I think 4 million, another million people like actually interacted with the page, so take advantage of that. That's it.